Delighted on this episode to be talking with creator Tomm Coker, uh, talking about the world of comics, talking a little bit about the world of film, work with Jonathan Hickman, and other such titles like Undying Love that are on the way. Tom, thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me. How are you today?
I'm good, doing good. How are you?
I have no complaints. I have no complaints.
This is good. This is a good way to start the interview. Fantastic. So kind of an origins question to start out with. What got you into the world of comics and storytelling and creating?
Um, when I was a kid, I mean, comics were just the coolest thing ever, And when I was around, I don't know, 6 or 7, I already knew I was going to do comics, I think. And a friend of my father's gave me or gave him a box of Creepy Magazine and Savage Sword of Conan,
Mm,
the big white magazines, and I saw those, and they just rewired something in my brain, and it's all I've ever done since. I mean, with little forays here and there, but and then this is a little more in depth, but when I was 16, my girlfriend at the time got pregnant, and I needed a job. And at that
yeah,
particular time, there were more jobs in the comic book world than they could possibly staff. And so if you could hold a pencil and do halfway decent Rob Liefeld or Art Adams or Jim Lee or whatever the editor was asking you to imitate at that time, you could get work. And so I spent about a year drawing 10 hours a day or whatever and trying to learn how to draw a page and all that kind of stuff. And I was fortunate enough to get my first job with DC at 17, I think. And not work I'm particularly proud of as far as what it was or what it turned out like, but it was my first work, and it's what I've done ever since.
the journey starts somewhere, right? You have to
Yes, it
start
does start
somewhere. And
somewhere.
DC's not a bad place to start.
No, it was not. It was not a bad spot at all. It was. I had a wonderful time, and I left to go work for Image not long after that, and Image has been a good home to me ever since, off and
Nice.
on. Yes.
Now,
Um,
you've also worked in like the world of film. I mentioned that a little bit. What's it
yeah.
like to kind of move back and forth between media that way?
For me, it's both visual storytelling and telling stories with pictures and that kind of stuff. And so, and that's what I do, or what I've always aspired to do. And so for me, going back and forth isn't that difficult. And it's been a lot more comics recently than film stuff. I mean, some design work and whatever, but for the most part, I mean, when I went, I did some directing stuff here and there, and with the exception of learning how to tell somebody else to do something, it was fairly easy to get the hang of it. I mean, as far as adjusting to the job itself, it wasn't that hard. The hardest part was realizing that I didn't have to do every part of the job, because in
Mm.
comics, you get a script and you deliver every aspect of what that script demands. And in film, you go, oh, I'm going to tell that guy to do this, and these guys are going to do that, and whatever, and so on. And it's that it's the only way it gets done. So that was a learning curve.
You mentioned sort of starting out and imitating some creators. As you've developed your own style, any influences, inspirations that you've drawn on, and that could be in the world of film, comics, art, any of those sort of worlds.
I mean, in comics, it's they're so varied that it's hard to really nail it down because I mean, because I've been doing this since I was 16 or 17 or whatever, and so there's been a lot of influences. But I mean, the big ones are Magnola, uh,
Mhm.
uh, Al Williamson, Jorge Zafino, Jean-Paul Leon, and I mean, just a lot of different artists that pretty much anything that does anything good, if somebody does something really good and I see it and I think, oh, that's something I could learn from, then I try to learn as much as I can from that thing. I forget who said it. I think I don't remember who it was now. It wasn't Neil Adams, but it was someone like on that scale where they said that style is just your style is just your failings at trying to imitate somebody how somebody else does something and figuring out how you do it. And I feel like I've really put that to the test over the last 30 years or whatever it's been now. And in the rest of it, I mean, I'm a huge fan of David Hockney, who just passed away, and all the American illustrators, Dean Cornwell and Robert
Yeah.
Fawcett,
Mhm.
and uh, on and on and on. Um, and in film, I tend to be more of an old school guy, and I mean, I really love Hitchcock, and I really love David Lean, and I really love these guys who produced. Uh, I just like the fact that you can look at their work and you're never wondering how they did it. Like
Mhm.
they did it by putting a camera somewhere and building something and putting people in it and taking a picture. And when it's effects, you can figure out how they're doing things. And so I'm still a huge fan of modern stuff, but the stuff I learned from was Hitchcock and David Lean and Robert Weiss and a bunch of guys like that.
Yeah, the set design for things like Vertigo, I mean, just
Oh yeah.
real like or Rear Window's the one I'm thinking of most with set design, like just
Yes,
amazing
I
the
mean
amount
even
of
like
work.
Psycho is like I mean the best film ever made. Or you guys and you also have Orson Welles and you look at things like the Magnificent Ambersons and you look at the set design on those movies and it's just like it's just breathtaking. I mean what they were capable of doing and the way they could design a set to accommodate certain shots and certain scenes and stuff like that. It was just I don't know. It's on a whole different level. So I hope to attain that someday, but at this point, it's still aspirational.
As you're designing sets on the page, as you're approaching a script, what are some things that you keep in mind, kind of the first read, and as you're working through that process?
Um, I mean, I try, I try not to get ahead of myself. Like I don't. I'm sure we're going to talk about Black Monday, and
Hmm.
so use that as an example. It, the I don't like to know what's going to happen in a story ahead of time when I'm working on it. So I mean, with the exception Undying Love, I wrote, so I know what's happening in that one. But like with Black Monday, I could get a script and read it like a fan because I am a fan of the book. And, I'd make little notes and I'd say, oh, surprise, or like scared or angry or, whatever. I was making notes about what I was experiencing as a fan reading the script for the first time and the margins of it as I'm reading it. And I take those back with me when I start on the layouts and the pages and everything. Um, because by the time I'm done drawing a book, you've read a script 50 times. I don't and whatever was exciting or whatever, you know, got you going the first time you read it, usually that has been pounded out of it by the time you get to finishing a script, for me at least, because I'm reading it constantly and I have it sitting next to my work table when I'm drawing and whatever and so on. And so for me, those notes are really important because it lets me maintain what I experienced as a fan when I read it the first time.
When I'm not in Zoom, I'm an English teacher, so this idea of like reading, rereading, marking, like I live there. So great
Yeah.
response. It's interesting to hear about that.
Yeah, and but the downside of it is though I've been waiting on the last couple scripts for years now, and I don't know how the story ends. And so I'm as on just as I've got a little more info because I've drawn issues 9 and 10, and so I know what happens in those. But those just set up the final two issues, and so it's even worse for me because I have this huge cliffhanger that I'm hanging on right now. and I don't know where it goes, and I, I won't let Jonathan tell me. And so,
I was gonna say, are you ever tempted to reach out and say, "Hey,
ah,
Jonathan"?
I mean, we talked a couple weeks ago, and the idea does cross my mind, but at the same time, it would not be worth it for me to do
Yeah,
that. It would leave me at a disadvantage, I think.
yeah. I was going to ask about that partnership with Jonathan and what it's like to work with him and kind of continue that story.
I mean, Jonathan, working with Jonathan on Black Monday has been, I mean, it's been really educational in a lot of ways. Like the the format of the books changes every issue. You know, one issue I draw 22 pages, one issue I draw 48 pages. You know, the structure of it with all the stuff that he adds, all that interstitial stuff that he's adding, you know, all the charts and diagrams and blacked out emails and that kind of stuff. I never see any of that in the script. None of that's there when I'm working. It'll just say, you know, uh, 2 pages of emails here, and that's all I know. Or it'll say, I do my thing, and I don't know, have any clue what that thing is going to be. But working and working with Jonathan, he's been. I mean, we've had this massive delay that's been, I think, hard on fans hard on me. Is just like I want to finish the book, but at the same time, he, actually working on the books, he's he's very generous. Like he allows me to just do what I do, and he knew when I think he had a good idea when he hired me that of what I do and how I do it, and so I think for the first 3 or 4 scripts, you know, when I work with a writer, I will generally, after I, at the same time I'm making the notes about how I emotionally am feeling when I read the script, I'm making a list of questions that I can ask the writer, and things I can, you know, oh, I want to make this into a splash page, or can I decompress this a little bit, or can I tighten this up a little bit, or whatever, you know, storytelling wise. And I send them off to the writer, and they usually come back and they say no, and then I do it anyway. But with Jonathan, I would send him these questions, and he would say, "Oh yeah, I don't. Whatever you want to do, you don't have to ask. Like just do whatever you want to do." And I thought, oh, that's so nice of him to say that, but I didn't believe him because writers always say, "Oh, that's a great idea," and then hedge their bet as you get closer to the actual execution. Um, and so with Jonathan, I would do roughs or whatever, and I'd say, "Oh, this is what I'm thinking," and he'd be like, "I don't need to see any of this. Like, I really do just trust that you just do whatever you do." And it took me like a good 3 or 4 issues to go, "Oh, he means it when he says that I can do what I want to do," and it's, you know, he trusts me to pace out the books, and to pace out the scenes, and add things or subtract things or whatever it might be, and and that allowed me to sort of do what I was doing with Undying Love, which is just I'm just purely thinking about how I can tell the story as well as I can, and without having to be distracted by what a writer or editor or whoever is whispering in my ear. I can just do what I do, and I I guess a little arrogantly think that that's usually when things turn out best. Um, and I think you can see that in both Undying Love and Black Monday, and other stories that
Mhm.
I've been more, where I can write, or I have more control or whatever. That it, when you can do when I get to do what I do, it just makes everything pop a little bit more. The freedom to do what I do while still collaborating with another person is a fun way to work.
Anything that you'd like to tee up for listeners to expect that doesn't give anything away? That's a delicate dance of a question. Um,
But Black Monday, um, I mean, I know, I mean, I've read issue or I've done issues 9 and 10, and so I know them inside and out. And I think they're beautiful. I mean, I think they're I think it's definitely the most complete work I've done. And I know Jonathan is pretty over the moon about the writing and such. And but I don't know how to I mean, I know things are coming to a head at the end of issue 10, and I but I have, like I said, I have no idea where it goes, and that's really, really, really frustrating. But I mean, there's a lot of jumping around in time, a lot of jumping around in the various timelines, and experiencing characters in, at different ages and all that kind of stuff, which drives me fucking crazy. And because the difference between drawing someone at 15 and drawing someone at 18 is it's not a there's not a huge difference in those. I mean, but anyway, um, but as far as teeing anything up, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have all the pages right there, but I'm not gonna just. I could just start doing, showing them one at a time, but I don't think I'm going to do that.
I don't
Um,
blame you. Not
yeah,
at all.
that'd be a bad idea. But yeah, so I don't really have a lot to tee up on that, but I do think they're beautiful books that read really, really well, and I think anybody who's been following the book will be very happy, and anybody who's just getting into it will, after reading the first two, will be equally pleased by what's going on.
What are talking about Undying Love now? What are the benefits and also, I guess, maybe the challenges of being both writer and artist?
I mean, benefits, like I said, talking about the Black Monday stuff is just the control you have, like, and the freedom to exercise that control. The challenges are, and I'm experiencing on Undying Love right now, is that the challenges are picking out exactly what you're going to do and then committing to that thing, and knowing that doing that thing eliminates doing all these other things. I mean, we've already written Undying Love, the remainder of it, so that's a little less trying, but there's still, it's you still have to sit down and go, okay, how do I do this? And you don't have a writer or an editor or someone who can nudge you along or force you to do something that you might not have thought to do earlier or whatever. And so that right now is the struggle with doing anything that I write is just narrowing down to one thing and just doing that thing rather than bouncing around and thinking, oh, this would be a great beginning, or this would be a great middle, or this would be a great end. Like you have to say, okay, this is the end, or this is the beginning, or whatever. You can't just continually. I think some comic book artists might, but I am incapable of just bouncing around and hoping that it all works out for the best. I need to have everything sorted out and figured out before I start, and that's the process I'm in right now, and that for me is the most painful of all the creative processes. So that's yeah, that's something that's that.
Yeah, interesting story architecture, right? And you have a lot going on with like mythology, lots of aesthetics. So, I mean, there's a real balance there that you're after and kind of capturing on the page. So it makes sense that you would want to do
Yeah,
some planning, breaking down, which is the mechanics of it, I guess.
yeah, and it's very and it's the one of the issues we have with Undying Love is, or I have with Undying Love, is that we we did the first four issues, and it got a lot of critical response that was positive. It got a lot of fan response that was positive, but by issue four, we just weren't making enough money to continue. We had to pay mortgages and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so, but we were fortunate enough to have Warner Brothers come in and option it, and we had written, like I said, we've written the entire thing, and we basically just put it all together as a screenplay. and they purchased the screenplay, and because of that, they had us do the first round of writing on the script for Warner Brothers, and they were great, and they were so into the project and so into the book, and they really they were really protective of the book, which was nice. But we ended up writing, I don't know, 10 or 12 versions of it, that 15 versions of it that were all they all had things that I really loved in them, and they were all significant. They all had things that were different from the original script.
Hmm.
And then we had another production company come in, and they had a whole new set of ideas. And then and then there was a third production company that eventually wanted to go back to the beginning, and then this and that, whatever. And the hardest part I've had restarting Undying Love is just figuring out which version of it is the right version. Because now we have like, 20 versions of it that I'm sitting here pouring through all these screenplays trying to figure out which is the right one, and how they can all go together and still match the first four, but still tell the best story we've come up with. And it's a it's a it's a hell of a process. Um,
Yeah.
and it can be, it's not frustrating, but it is definitely challenging. That has been definitely challenging. I mean, because we've written like, because you draft these things, we've written like 6 or 8 versions of the first, or of the origin story of one of the main characters, May, and they're all basically the same story because we know what the story is, but they all have little tweaks and changes here and there that affect how that story plays out over the course of the last 4 or 6 issues or whatever it is. And figuring out how to nail all these, because that's the first scene I have to draw. And so figuring out how to nail these things all down and make them all work together and independently and stuff, it drives me crazy. And so yeah, so that's the most challenging thing for sure.
You'd have to be inside and outside of the story and traveling across these multiple interpretations. So I guess the benefit is you know the story really well at this point
Yeah,
in
and
different avenues.
yeah, and it's just the infinite possibilities though, until you say this one and put it on paper, it's, there's even if you know what you're going to do, there's still infinite possibilities. And so not knowing exactly how it's going to go, that's been a hell of a challenge at this point.
Say I've been to the Kickstarter page. It's beautiful work,
Thank you.
wonderful looking book. And I was going to ask about that, like deluxe hardcover effect, because you can do certain things in publishing on Kickstarter, and that allows for different add-ons to the book and different features. So just curious what it's like to see this work sort of take that shape as a deluxe edition.
Well, I mean, I have a sample copy, and I was shocked. Like, it's huge. Ow. I mean, that's for size
Hmm.
comparison.
Hmm.
And and the book itself, I mean, it has the slipcover, which is beautiful. There's no UV spot UV stuff on this yet. And then yeah, the book,
Yeah.
and with the wraparound, look like Gene Simmons. And and or Ace Frehley, I guess would be better. But and this one unfortunately is completely blank on the inside. It's just a sample for what it's going to look like. Which I'm trying to figure out if I can make this a sketchbook, but I don't
True.
know.
I
So,
thought about that. Yeah.
um, but I mean, the printing is beautiful. We worked really hard on making sure like all the grayscale stuff is none of it's too dark and it's all popping. And I mean, these guys did a fantastic job. Uh, and everything about it, we have a little bit of color popping here and there that'll continue on through the book. Because some jokes don't work in black and white, and so when you have a gold tooth on a vampire, it doesn't make any sense in black and white. Um, but uh, it's been fantastic. I mean, working with Kevin and Sean and Daniel on doing the Kickstarter stuff has just been. I mean, the book itself, I never imagined that it would be. you know, put out in some hardcover with a slipcase and everything else and going on and going through all, going through all the work and all the old files and trying to find, going through art drawers and stuff like that and finding pencil sketches and designs and we just found our hand noted scripts, or I just found those and you look at a page of script and it's nothing but red pen through everything with circles and arrows and added dialogues and we're going to publish a bunch of that stuff and it's for me it's just been it, it's it's and to see the evolution of what I'm doing today compared to what I was doing 15 years ago, it's just been super. I don't know, it's fun. It's just as fun as anything I've ever done because I actually still like it. I mean, if you had asked me when I did this book about work I had done 15 years prior to that, I would have been like, oh, I don't think anybody should ever see any of that and it should never be talked about again. But looking at it today, I mean, I'm I'm pretty impressed at what my 15-year ago self did with this little vampire story, and it's beautiful, and I just can't wait to get it back out in the world. Um,
Flipcase is really nice.
yeah, yeah, it's just, and I'm just a silly kid that draws comic books, and I don't, I mean, I'm not accustomed to getting slipcases. I'm used to having stuff folded up and put in your back pocket. That's more my speed with comic books. Um, and this is like this is something fancy. I don't I'm not accustomed to being that or working in that world. So it's a fun day trip. Um, and everybody's been great about it and with the tiers and all that kind of stuff, we've managed to hit a bunch of the tiers and the Kickstarter the, the funding period or whatever, the official funding period, I think it
Hmm.
wrapped up yesterday. Is that right? I think. But now we're into like the what is it called?
Late pledges, yeah.
Late pledges, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so we're nearly at a new tier now that'll unlock another like 10 pages in this thing and another 10 pages in the sketchbook that we're doing along with it. And it's just I mean, I just want to keep going and get as much out as, make it as great a book as possible.
Ask what's next in the world. It sounds like more Black Monday, but anything that you'd like to mention?
Well, there's Black Monday and Undying Love. I'm hoping to have those both wrapped up as fast as I can. And then I'm working on a new book right now with a writer named Joe Suter, and he's an illustrator as well. And that's called Canary Hollow, and it takes place in Arkansas in like 1986 or something like that. It's a really fun kind of mashup of like Stand By Me and Red Dawn kind of in that world with CIA drug and drops and all kinds of stuff. Um, and so that's going on right now. And then I'm working on a new project that I've written, but I really can't go too far into detail because I haven't discussed or showed it to anybody at this point other than me and my wife. So so at this point, I mean, Black Monday, Undying Love, and Canary Hollow are the three things I'm focusing almost all of my attention on.
Sounds
Uh,
wonderful. Sounds wonderful.